thrive, and be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat,
light,
and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth
leads to decent jobs
for everyone.
And we will live in a world where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
best innovations
are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
where prejudices and extremes of inequality are defeated
inside our countries
and between different countries,
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there,
where we replace
what we consume,
planet where we put back
what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back
the threat of climate change,
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
We'll restore
and protect life on land,
the forests,
animals,
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
work together
in partnerships of all kinds
to make these goals a reality for everyone, everywhere.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work. Let's make it happen.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
for everyone, everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody,
anywhere, lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning
asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die
of diseases we know how to cure.
And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
everyone goes to school.
And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive and be powerful
and safe. We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat,
light,
and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth
leads to decent jobs
for everyone.
And we will live in a world where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
best innovations
are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated
inside our countries
and between different countries,
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there,
where we replace
what we consume,
planet where we put back
what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back
the threat of climate change,
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
We'll restore
and protect life on land,
the forests,
animals,
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
work together
in partnerships of all kinds
to make these goals a reality for everyone, everywhere.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work. Let's make it happen.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. Good evening. Good evening and welcome, everyone, to this SDGs
SDGs Spotlight webinar series. I'm excited to be here, and I believe that you are too. So right there in the chat or in the comments, let me know your name, let me know your affiliation, and of course, where you're tuning in from. So welcome once again, everyone, to this SDGs webinar series. My name is Okweyemi Odunola, and I will be your moderator for today. Okay, so right in the chat room, I want you to just do this for me. Tell me your name, tell me your affiliation, and of course, where you're tuning in from. Like I previously said, my name is Okweyemi Odunola. My affiliation is University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and of course, the SDG Spotlight series. And I am tuning in from Nigeria. So let me know where you're tuning in from right there in the comments section. I would be reading that shortly. Awesome. Now, as we all know, it's past 8 p.m. Our time, and we are going to begin. And as we all know, in September of 2015, the United Nations member states, adopted a 2030 agenda, for sustainable development. Hi, Sharifat Yusuf, I see you. Kwaje Hillary, I see you. From South Sudan. Promise, hello, I see you. From Imo State University. Owerri, from Nigeria, I see you. Hello, everyone, I see you in the comments. So let's keep it coming. Keep it coming. I want to know you. I want to know my audience. I want to know those who are in on this webinar. And of course, this is the time to tell someone to be at this webinar series. If you know somebody that needs to be here, and of course, everybody needs to be here because this is sustainable development. We're talking about the sustainable development goals. We're talking about the 2030 agenda. And so everybody needs to be here. And even our guest is in the house. And so we are excited. Hello, Scholastica. I see you from Anambra State, Nigeria. And of course, our guest, the technocrat par excellence, is in the house, Dr. Muritala Adogi Mohammed. And I am going to introduce him shortly. Just like I was saying before, I started reading the comment session. I was saying that, in 2015, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, provides a blueprint for peace, for prosperity, and of course, for the people and the planet. And at the heart of this 2030 agenda, we have the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, the first webinar that we had, in the Spotlight series talked about the 2030 agenda. We've been halfway, and what have we done? What is the progress so far? And today we will be having conversations around what's the topic for today's webinar. So if you had this webinar, definitely you know the topic of today's webinar, but I'll tell you about it, not to waste our time. So the topic of the webinar is building sustainable policies and strategies to achieve the 2030 agenda. Building sustainable policies and strategies to achieve the 2030 agenda. I see my comment session rolling with introductions. I see Salome, apologies if I've not been able to mention your name. I see a lot of people telling me. I see F. Young from Open University, Lagos, Nigeria. I see a lot of people. Thank you so much for tuning in. And so to tell us more about why we are here, to tell us more about, what we're about to gain and glean from this webinar today, I would be inviting someone that everybody here should know. If you have been following the Spotlight series professionally, he's called the Development Catalyst. And so please make welcome Mr. Emmanuel Ola-Olowoyo to tell us more about this webinar series. Hello, Mr. Emmanuel, how are you? Good evening.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much. And it's so good to be here and to see each and everyone joining across the states and also from other countries. I think I saw someone joining earlier from South Sudan. Awesome. Thank you. And also people joining from Kenya and all other countries. It's so amazing to have you all here joining the Spotlight series tonight. And we are so glad to have you join us tonight. Definitely, our work here is very simple, and our purpose there is threefold, and basically is to advocate, advance, and accelerate the achievement of the SDGs, that's the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And as you all know that we stand halfway towards achieving this 2030 agenda. These questions keeps coming up that are we going to achieve these SDGs by 2030? We are mostly concerned about each and every country, most especially the developing countries. And it's very, very important for us, which is one of the reasons why we came up with the SDG Spotlight series, which is serving as a powerful catalyst for accelerating the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, without leaving anyone behind, getting everyone informed about these SDGs. And this initiative also aims to enhance innovation across boards, whereby we get to sensitize people, we get to empower them with more knowledge on how they can innovate solutions towards solving the global challenges. And it does not leave anyone, individuals, organizations, civil societies, governments, and each and everyone are involved. And this evening, we are so glad to have an industry expert in our midst who is going to be diving on the theme, building sustainable policies and strategies to achieve the 2030 agenda. You know, one of the issues is when people talk about inconsistency of government policy, but there are things, there are strategies to get this solved. There are things which we can do across boards, not just leaving it to the government alone. Like I always say in every event, that we can't leave it to the government alone. We all have our own roles to play. So tonight, as we embark on this, joining on this learning series together, let us remember to ensure that we engage and definitely open our hearts and open our minds. Let's be willing to learn. Let's get to share and also engage the section positively, because it's going to be highly impactful. And once again, I'm so delighted to welcome each and everyone. And I really want to appreciate Dr. Murtala for joining us as early as possible tonight. I knew that he has a very busy day. Thank you so much, sir. We sincerely appreciate what you do. And thank you so much, Okoyemi, for the wonderful moderation. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. And if you are listening to him, he said a lot of things, but one key thing he said is what? We are here and we are leaving no one behind. So we're here to advocate, we're here to advance, and of course, we're here to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals. And so without further ado, I'm going to be introducing our guest speaker, and I'm going to be reading his profile. And so I will be doing that right about now. All right. So our speaker today is Dr. Murtala Adogi Mohammed. He's the CEO and founder of Systems Strategy and Policy Lab. Dr. Mohammed is professionally a trained educationist and environmentalist. His work expertise is almost 2 decades covering planning, policy reform, results delivery, and system strengthening. He is a former UK Government Department for International Development Education Advisor, Northern Nigeria Office, Kano, and a former education specialist for the UNICEF Nigeria Country Office, Abuja. He has worked closely with 22 governors and several top government officials in 17 states across Nigeria, giving professional support to strengthen the education system to deliver tangible results. In December 2022, he established a private policy think tank called the System Strategy and Policy Lab. The firm offers services in the area of policy design, policy implementation, technical support, advocacy, research, third-party monitoring, capacity building, and project implementation services to governments, ministries, commissions, agencies, and departments, NGOs, international organizations, and companies seeking to boost impact. Dr. Murtala Adogi Mohammed holds a PhD with a specialization in climate change, livelihoods, and rural development from the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. He also has an MSc in ecology and environmental sustainability from the University of Aberdeen, Scotland, United Kingdom, and many more academic degrees awarded to him at home and abroad. He is a Chivlin Scholar and a happily married man with 4 lovely children. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome in the chat room, Dr. Murtala Adogi Mohammed. Good evening, sir. Over to you, sir, to take this virtual stage. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this Spotlight series. I don't know whether my video is on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I would like to share my screen.
Okay, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I would like to share my screen to just a moment. Please kindly confirm if you are seeing the screen.
Not yet, sir. Okay, yes, sir. We can, it's coming up. Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know why the background is so blurry, but let me. I'm having some technical issues here, so I will soon run it up. Okay, we are good to go. Can you see the screen very well? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Can somebody help me read what is on the screen? I want to confirm that everybody is seeing what is on the screen.
From my side, I can't see a screen yet, but if any of the participants can see it. Okay, so I see the comment section. We can't see your screen yet, sir.
But I can only see you, but I cannot see the screen.
Okay, just a moment. What about now?
Not yet, sir, not yet.
Okay. Let me go to the Zoom once again. Okay. Are you seeing it now?
It's coming up, sir. Yes, sir. We can see it now.
Yes. You can see it now?
Yes, sir. We can.
Okay. Can somebody read what is on the screen? I want to confirm.
Okay, let me just read. Building sustainable policies and strategies to achieve the 2030 agenda by Murtala Adoji Mohammed, PhD. Founder and executive director. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, and good evening, colleagues. This is a very important session for me, as we are planning to all be in New York for those that are attending from 12th of September to 30th of September, about 192 to 93 world leaders will meet in New York to review SDGs and come up with strong recommendations on way forward. We are at the moment what we call the midterm, because in the next 7 years, SDG will end and it's 15 years. So 15 divided by 2 will give you 7.5. So this is midtime time for reviewing SDG goals and also evaluate the progress made so far, not only in Nigeria, but also across the 193 countries that signed and agreed to deliver on the global goals. So my presentation is going to be like about 14 to 13 slides. I have the background here. We're going to look at the core value, the lessons learned, and building sustainable policies and strategy to achieve 2030 agenda. And also we're going to look at some challenges and look at some recommendations and come up with conclusion. So I would like somebody to tell me one thing about this photo. This is like an ice-breaking slide. Tell me, what do you see here? Hello?
Hello?
Just mute your mic and tell me what you see here.
Okay, let me just try. In this photo, I'm seeing a dumping site where a lot of garbages are being deposited. And I'm also seeing people actually taking a view at it. Then at the front of the dumping site, I don't know if it is leading to water or whatever. I'm not really, but I think it is leading to something, it is leading to water. Then again, at the background, I'm also seeing a massive air pollution from the city. I know this might be related to some industrial work in this particular city.
Good. And for the other side, are you seeing what again? Are you seeing a woman with a baby?
Yeah. I'm seeing a woman with a baby trying to move away from this massive dumping site.
Okay. And have you seen like an elderly man showing a picture of the baby?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So in summary, and by that side, there's what we call sustainable development strategy. And behind the man, you would see a wind panel. So in summary, we're saying that there is no equality. We have this part of the world that have a lot of resources, a lot of industry, and they're polluting the world. And we have this part of the world that are part of like Asia, Africa, and Caribbean, that the elderly people, the women and children are struggling to survive. So that dumping site is like what the bigger countries in the Europe are doing. They are the highest polluter, but they are finding it difficult to invest in addressing sustainable development goals. So in summary here is that we are calling to the bigger country with bigger resources to support smaller country by addressing challenges that hinder them from attaining sustainable goal, by cleaning the data that is blocking them and making them having access to finance and have a greener side across the country. So in summary, we have the breakdown here. SDG 2013 is an ambitious goal. We all know we have 17 goals and 169 associated targets. We're all familiar with this. I will not waste much time on this, but I have this quotation that is very important by Ban Ki-moon. He said, sustainable development is the pathway to the future we want for all. It affects, it offers a framework to generate economic growth, achieve societal justice, and exercise environmental stewardship and strengthen governance. So that is all Ban Ki-moon said here. And if you look at it critically, if we are to do what we're supposed to do as a country, as in Nigeria, then we should be able to achieve all these great milestones and come up with a very fantastic solution that will at least if Nigeria as a country will not be able to put our resources in all the 17 goals, we should prioritize 7 to 5 or 8 goals. All the countries globally, this is what they are trying to do at the moment. You will not be able to put your resources across the 17 goals. Then, as a country, we need to sit down with all stakeholders and agree. Out of these 17 goals, how many are we going to report at the global landscape? How many are we going to communicate in New York that we are doing good on climate action, we are doing good on water and sanitation, we are doing good on health, we are doing good on education? And now, if I may ask the question before I continue, which one are we really doing good in these 17 goals? Let somebody tell me something. Which one are we doing good? Which one can you share something with me that yes, Nigeria is delivering and is meeting the target and milestone in one of these 17 goals? Any response?
Okay. Good evening, all.
No, sir.
Yeah, no, there's a Chioma hand is up. Chioma, go ahead. I want the session to be interactive.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Chioma.
I don't think Nigeria is missing any of the goals yet. I don't think the policies are in place. I don't think things have been set in motion. I don't know though, but I don't think so. I don't think so. We are still very far away from meeting the SDG goals.
Okay, that is a very good comment. Thank you. The next person is Richard, and that will be okay. We balance the gender. Chioma and Richard. Richard, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm participating from Ekiti, Nigeria. I will agree with the first speaker. I don't think we have achieved any of these goals, but at the same time, I don't think we are where we used to be. I think we have made serious progress when it comes to raising awareness and getting the youth involved with all of the campaigns ongoing, especially when it comes to the aspect of education, digital awareness, and the reduction of pollution, especially when it comes to recycling. I think there's a lot going, especially here in the West. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now let's go ahead. I strongly agree. At the moment, Nigeria is trying to write their scorecard. And if given the opportunity to make presentation in New York in the next 2 weeks, and to be realistic with you, I strongly agree. We are not making significant progress. We're making like a little effort, most especially around SDG 4 and SDG 3, that is health and education. That is where we make a little progress on health and education, and it's not even significant. But let's just move ahead and see what we have. So the core values we have according to the SDGs is we want to have a world that envisages free of fear and violence. We want to have a world with universal literacy. Nigeria is one of the countries at the moment that is suffering from learning poverty. World Bank define learning poverty as a situation whereby a child that is age 10 are not being able to read and write. That child is suffering from learning poverty. And the World Bank report released recently, it said 70% of Nigerian children that are age 0 to 10 are finding it difficult to read and write. And Nigeria is one of the top countries in the world suffering from learning poverty. So for we to have a universal literacy, it means Nigeria has a long way to go. We want to have a world where universal access to quality education at all levels and access to health, care, social protection. We are having a serious issue at the moment. If you want to know where Nigeria is now, try and visit any hospital, accident and emergency unit. You will see where we are in terms of health indicators. Also, we want a nation where we have a safe drinking water and sanitation, and where improved hygiene and food is sufficient, safe, affordable, and nutrition. We're having a serious problem here with the poverty in Nigeria. The lives and livelihood of Nigeria is seriously in danger. Since the removal of subsidy, things have changed completely. We want to see a movement where Mr. President will be using the 400 billion naira we are saving every month from subsidy removal and invest in SDG moving forward. Part of the 400 billion naira every month we are saving should be allocated to address the challenge of SDG. This is one of the strong points we should take out of this conversation today. And we should put this in our social media handles that I personally recommend that significant percent of the 400 billion we are saving. Every month we save 400 billion from subsidy removal. Where is the money going? What do we do with the money? The Mr. President is saying that it's going to give governors 5 billion naira. How sure are we are going to measure result and impact of this 5 billion naira? So we need to do a lot of work as a civil society, as NGO, and create awareness and do strong advocacy that the money we are using to pay subsidy before, 50% of it should go into addressing the challenge of SDGs in Nigeria and accelerating delivering of results on SDG. So, lessons learned. You know, I would like to share some lessons learned with us from African countries. And if you look at the first one, we're talking about on policy and strategy. We have some countries that have done well. And Nigeria need to borrow some of these good practices. That is the essence of this presentation. We should look at what Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, within the African context that we are doing very well and see how we can replicate most of these things. Number one, if you look at under integration and mainstreaming as a strategy, successful implementation of SDG require integration and mainstreaming of goals into national development plan. In Nigeria, we have Nigerian Agenda 2050. President Buhari launched it towards the end of last year. Nigerian Agenda 2050, you can Google and download it. It's our long-term plan. In Nigeria, we have Nigerian Agenda 2021-2025. It's our a kind of a medium-term plan for 5 years. 2021-2025 National Development Plan. And component number 4, it's about human capital development. So this is our national development plans that we have. Agenda 2050 and National Development Plan 2021-2025. We need to align these two plans with SDGs. And a country that has succeeded in doing this, it's Rwanda. A country like Rwanda have shown how incorporating SDG into their national strategy, such as Vision 2020, has led to a tangible progress in poverty reduction and gender equality. We can read more on this and see how Rwanda were able to do it. A second good example is Ghana. You know, multi-sector stakeholder engagement involving the various stakeholders, including government, civil society, private sector, academia, and crucial stakeholders, help Ghana under Partnership for SDG to initiate with a strong initiative that engage all stakeholders, collectively address development challenges and promote sustainable development. So Ghana have a strategy called Partnership for SDG, and is working for them to some extent, though we cannot be able to quantitatively or qualitatively state the result that Ghana were able to achieve at the moment. If you look at number 3, data collection and monitoring, it's also another area that South Africa National Development Plan has emphasized the importance of data-driven decision-making to identify gaps and allocate the resources. So the South African example under data collection is that South Africa make it compulsory for any part of South Africa that have an SDG plan must have a budget. If you have a plan, you must have money to be able to fund that your plan. So for instance, in Nigeria, if the state government have a plan on implementing SDG at subnational level, the question we're going to have in the state is that, do you have the money? If Lagos State have an accelerated plan to implement SDG, we will not have Lagos State. Do we have the money? But in the case of South Africa, the National Planning Office, like in the Nigerian context, we have a Ministry of Planning and Budget. They are the ones that are coordinating this in South Africa. Then let's look at another good example that happened in Ethiopia. Number 4, local ownership and contextualization. SDG need to be tailored to each country. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Good.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. So if you look at number 4, Ethiopian homegrown economic reform agenda, align with the specific development needs, ensure that policy resonate with the local population. So a good example that how we can have a policy and strategy to accelerate SDGs is to pick some lessons from Ethiopian homegrown reform agenda. You can Google that and read widely about Ethiopian homegrown agenda. The agenda we're having in Nigeria, to some extent, it's a kind of a mix of homegrown and also with the influence of the international community. So every state that wants to accelerate and fast track the delivery of SDG goal should begin to think around learning some lessons from how Ethiopia were able to use their own homegrown economic reform agenda and facilitate the attainment of SDG. Then in the Nigerian example that we can also learn within our own context is the development of conditional grant scheme, allocate funds to state based on their progress toward SDG and incentivize implementation at the local level. This is what we are recommending for Nigeria. In terms of financing SDG, the 400 billion naira we are saving every month from payment of subsidy removal, we should put 50% to incentivize SDG. We should make it a conditional grant scheme in the SDG office that every governor that is able to put in 2 billion naira for SDG, then the SDG office in Abuja will also put in 2 billion naira, making it 4 billion. And with that 4 billion, there will be a multi-stakeholder team between Abuja and that state with technical team to plan and deliver, monitor, and measure results as far as SDG deliverable is concerned. This is a fantastic idea that I'm currently working on, and I'm strongly advocating for this. And in fact, I'll be traveling to New York to be part of the SDG Summit and UN General Assembly, and we're going to have some session with Nigerian stakeholders. I will make this point as a very strong point. So we look at another few examples, again, before we now finalize. Gender equality and empowerment. This is something that happened in Rwanda also. If you look at it, Rwanda has achieved notable progress in women political representation, with over 60% of parliamentary seats held by women. That is Rwanda for you. In Nigeria, the senator and reps that we have, they are now being up to 20%. So climate action and resilience. Under climate action and resilience, we need to look at example of what happened in Morocco. If you look at Morocco, the focus on renewable energy, exemplified by the Noor Solar Complex, showcased its commitment to SDG number 7. Nigeria needs to pick a lesson. I mentioned about 5 to 6 countries already. Now we have Morocco again. The next is Malawi. If you look at the education and the health investment reform happening in Malawi, health extension program, demonstrate how targeted investment can lead to improved human capital development. We can learn from Malawi. In fact, what is the population of Malawi? Malawi, I think they are not even up to 1 state in Nigeria. How Nigeria will pick lessons from these African countries. And the next one again that we need to look at, it's around what happened on Development Vision 2025 that emphasized the long-term policy that countries have been developing to push forward. And the last one is the youth and innovation. Engaging youth empowerment and social support. If you Google what we call Ajira Digital Programming and Technology to accelerate SDG and potential of you to drive economic growth. About 7 to 8 countries, so that at least we'll be able to know that countries are doing fantastically with something amazing. Nigeria, we need to do a lot of work. It's a big country with over of poverty, and our economic growth is slower, while our population, where the population is growing faster than the economy, and there's a big challenge. We're in a country whereby we give back to about 6 million children annually in Nigeria. Our population growth is 3.3. There's mass challenges that need to be addressed if we really want to accelerate SDG. Now, look at how can we build sustainable policies and strategy to achieve 2030 agenda? We must build progress by the people and for the people. Progress that does not promote social economic transformation, that not only, but can also reinforce and widen existing inequality, causing tension and leaving the poorest and the most vulnerable behind. Any policy and strategy that Nigeria needs to take moving forward in the remaining 7 years must be policies that put the poor people at the center. Must the policy that be able to identify and map out where the poor people are in Ikiti, in Oshogo, in Oshun, in Lagos, in Kaduna, in Kano, in Sokoto, in Nasarawa, across all Nigeria, we must be able to have a pro-poor policy for the poorest and the vulnerable. So that at least, and you know, if you are making intervention among where the poor people are, you can easily see results. In Abuja, if you like 10,000 cash transfer, you will see increase in the number of girls that will go to school. So we need to focus our agenda specifically on targeting and working for the poor. Then another one area that we need to look at is performance-based incentive. We are a rich country. In fact, when Bill and Melinda Gates invited some of us to be at the part of SDG summit that will happen on 17 and 18 in New York, and almost all the participants from Nigeria, Bill and Melinda Gates said they will not pay for our flight ticket because Nigeria is a rich country. So they are only supporting participants from poor countries. So Nigeria is a rich country, but are we seeing the money? Is the money going around? Does development go around? We have a strong GDP only in paper. Does the GDP translate to development? Does the GDP translate to poverty reduction? Does the GDP translate to lifting people out of poverty? This is the question that as a civil society we need to keep asking and keep engaging this space and make sure that there must be a strong correlation between our GDP and the level of poverty and the level of prosperity and the level of empowerment. We need to see that level of correlation. Then moving forward, sustainable policies and strategy in achieving SDG are put around like 6 to 7 key points. What the government need to do, not only in Nigeria, but within the African context. And I have some few examples my recommendation, what Nigerians should do. Engage all sectors of society, work from bottom to top, engage in partnership, make stakeholders accountable, buy in local and international financial institutions, have a systemic follow-up and review of policies, strengthen decision-making system. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they have what they call decision center. Any government decision that will go out of or government policy, they have over like 30 to 50 technical experts that must review the decision and agree on it before government will dish it out. In Nigeria, we don't have such center. A government will wake up in the morning and say from tomorrow, fuel price is 14 naira, fuel price is 250 naira, fuel price is 17 naira. No technical thought process that a policy should pass through. So what we are advocating is that on SDG moving forward from now to the next 7 years, and I want civil society to take this forward, please. When Nigerian government come back from New York, in the next 2 weeks, people will move to New York. Thank God President Asuwaju has reduced the number from about 200 I used to go to like 50 or 70. But notwithstanding, civil society should come up with a very strong voice and engage Nigerian government that tell us what we are going to do moving forward. Share with us what you have learned in New York, and let's see how we can move this country forward. We need to hold them accountable. We need to ask them questions. We need to see where we can be able to make input and make contribution and deliver for people, planet, and prosperity. So the next one is the key challenges we're having in Nigeria are summarized into key 3 major challenges. Acquiring reliable and standardized data. Oh my God. The most difficult thing in Nigeria is for you to get data. Go to any state that you know now and begin to ask for data. They will even ask you, which kind of data do you want? The political data, the government data, the NGO data, or the Abuja data. So one area we need to keep pushing if we want to measure progress in Nigeria is that we must work seriously around the issue of data and see how we can be able to have a strong data system that we can use as a baseline. We can be able to measure milestone, we can be able to measure target, and we can be able to see impact of what we are doing. The big second challenge is choosing reasonable and enforceable goal to prioritize. It seems Nigeria we are confused up to now. Out of 17, we don't know how many we want to put as a target. In the opening, during the introduction, I make it very clear that Nigeria is a country we cannot be able, we don't have the money. In fact, Nigeria is not rich. Nigeria just have the potential to be rich, but we don't have money. That's why we keep borrowing. I know there's corruption, but we are not as rich as we are thinking that we are. We have the potential. So now translating the potential into cash is what Nigerian government need to do. And for you to now convert potential into cash, you need technical expertise to help you to do that. So the recommendation or the challenge here is that out of 17 goals, how many should we focus on? 5, 6, 7? Because, sorry, we need to report at the end of 2030 that we were able to make progress on the following number of goals. We need to report. Then the last one is weak institutional capacity and lack of accountability, which has led to poor governance, problems and policy incoherence. Look at what is happening. Every governor that we have, he changed the entire policy of the state. When we have a president, he drops some policy and come up with a new one. And this is a long-term goal for 30 years. So we need to have consistency in our policy implementation, in our reforms agenda, and our allocation of resources to deliver results and also deliver reform. Then lastly, my recommendations are here. We need to look at, number one, multi-sectoral partnership. Nigeria moving forward. I fantastically love what IDEF Africa are doing. Emmanuel and the team are doing a fantastic work. Guys, keep it up. But we need to wider the scope of the partnership and see how we can bring in some private sector to be part of this Glo, MTN, Airtel, and other big multinational, EcoBank, Zenith Bank. Let them be part of the private sector. Let them be put proposal and send to them and see how they can support this initiative. Even if it's for creating awareness, they need to be part of this movement. Then the recommendation number 2, Nigeria need to move on what we call data revolution. We need to have a data revolution for decision making. For us to monitor, measure, and report SDG, we must be able to work on data revolution. Then the number 3 is communication strategy. Who is communicating what in Nigeria? Who is communicating what? What we communicate in Nigeria is activities, not a result. We must have a system that is working, a system that communicates the result. Like I said earlier, if Nigerians are back from New York in the next couple of weeks to come, they should be able to communicate to us that this is what they achieve in New York, and moving forward, this is what Nigeria is going to do. Priority project implementation. We need to prioritize implementation, not just having the policy, but also implementation. We must have a system for feedback mechanism, either through social media, radio, television, interview, but we must prioritize where somebody in Oshobo, somebody in Ado-Ekiti, somebody in Akure, somebody in Ibadan, somebody in Lagos, in Nasarawa, in Lokoja, we tell Nigerian government feedback that this your policy that you are planning to implement to address SDG challenges will not be able to work in Lokoja because of the following challenges. But we need to get feedback from people because SDG is about people, planet, prosperity, and also for people. Then the last one is grassroots engagement. We must take the SDG campaign to grassroots. This is where the people are really suffering. This is where we have the farmers. This is where we have poor women. This is where we have poor young people. We need to engage them at that level to have their feelings and have their thoughts on how we can be able to accelerate the SDG. Then lastly, I have what I call, this is the conclusion slide. In the conclusion slide, there is a model that some of the countries that succeeded globally, they use this model in accelerating SDG. And by doing it, they were able to a kind of colleagues, hold on. I have a guest, just a moment. So lastly, if you look at the conclusion, you realize that I use a model that we call it policy coherence for sustainable development. And most of the countries that succeeded in delivering on SDGs, they were able to use this model. And number 1 is strengthen monitoring and reporting and evaluation. Then number 2, analyze and assess policy, engage stakeholders effectively, and also involve regional and local authorities and ensure a whole government, not only Abuja-based, not only state-based, but local government. And it's quite unfortunate that in Nigeria now, we completely neglected the local government system. If you visit any local government secretariat, you find it difficult to understand whether something is happening. For we to accelerate and attain SDGs, we need to go back and engage the local government and have their resources given to them for them to deliver on. And we have what they call the policy integration to capitalize on synergies. And we have defined implementation and communicate strategy. I mentioned the communication issue. Then build a strong political commitment and leadership is the bottom line. Whatever we want to do in Nigeria and achieve results, we will not be able to achieve if there's no strong political will. And that's why I keep emphasizing the issue of that 400 billion naira that we save every month from subsidy removal. We need 50% of that 400 billion naira to go into SDG implementation. That might help us at least, because let me tell you guys, the difference between financing MDGs and financing SDGs. During the MDGs, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala were able to negotiate our debt. And the money that we save from not paying the debt, we'll use it to implement MDGs. Now, during the SDGs, in budget, that is as big as the money that was allocated during the MDGs. So there's a challenge now in financing SDG. That is why I keep emphasizing that the 50% of the 400 billion every month should go to financing SDGs. Thank you so much for giving. Thank you. And over to the moderator.
Thank you very much, sir. This has been so enlightening, and we're just, we're still in this webinar series, and we would like to go to questions and answers, of course. We'd like to go to question and answers. And so if you have a question, please raise your hands and I will call you in the order in which you have raised your hand. So if you have a question for our guests, I see young John. I'm waiting for a few more hands, but while I'm waiting for those hands, I would be calling on John to ask his question. So John, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Good evening, man.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. I really so much appreciate your presentations, and I'm so grateful and happy and delighted that you, like you said, you're going to be part of the representative in the UK summit. And yeah, well, I want to, it's not like I have a question, but I just want to point out some of my concerns about, all of these policies. Like we all know, policies ought to be strategy to accomplish a goal. If you look at this whole thing from the start, we've had, like you made mention, we've had policy or goals for about 5 years, for about 30 years, and even for about 50 years. But if you look at this whole thing, you would, if you look at it critically, all of these goals, look at it critically, you will discover that the goals are really centered on our government being a middleman. Now, coming back to SDG, you made mention about grants. You made mention about grants that is being, being sent by the international communities or institutions in support for the advancement of SDG. But the challenge is, so long as government stands as a middleman, until we break this should I call it a chain, or a kind of a link, government standing as a link between the sponsors or the givers of these grants to the people that SDG is concerned about, is the people. Now, why should SDG be concerned about the people? And then we are having government as an intermediary, and governments keep embezzling the funds meant for the progress and the sustainability of these goals, and yet we're not making any advancement. I'm so sorry. We'll keep piling up policies, we'll keep piling up goals, we keep piling up things, and we'll keep going around the cycle. Nothing will change. So long, like I said, so long we keep having this government as an intermediary, whereby whereby
Dr. Mohammed, I think you get the question that Mr. John has. Sir, you understand the question?
Hello? It's not like a question. I'm only just presenting this to him because he itemized some of his fantastic
Dr. Mohammed. Your mic is
recommendations. Am I still on that?
You're still on, but Dr. Mohammed would like to speak and his mic is muted.
Okay.
I want him to.
Okay, I just unmuted now.
Yes, sir.
I think I got the point. It made it very clear. And it's a very interesting one. I like where it's talking about government being as a middleman. You see, for sustainability, that is why government is coming in as a middleman or middlewoman or middle whatever. We want government to use their own money. So if, let's say, World Bank or UNDP is going to finance SDG in Nigeria, what happens if there's a crisis? Maybe military took over, UNDP and World Bank decide to move out of Nigeria. So government serve as a middleman is for sustainability, to ensure that every year in their annual budget, they put in money for financing SDG. So what we need to do as a civil society, at CBOs, FBOs, NGOs, is to have a strong advocacy and strong media engagement where we go on calling on government for accountability. And we need to do more on that. Thank you for your input.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. So I'll be going to Kazim. Kazim, you're on now. Please ask your question. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Mujerola Kazim. Okay.
Good evening. Good evening, my good evening, sirs. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mujerola Kazim from Ibadan. I really enjoyed the submission of our speaker, and I'm more kudos to you, and God will give you more. My question is that you made mention of the policy that concerns the poor, that is the vulnerable in our society. Yes. If you look at the SDG itself, the goals is all about helping the poor, turning around our society. That is basically the SDG. Now, in a society where we have corrupt leaders, how do you think that these vulnerable that are voiceless, how do you think that we can make policy that will be in their support? And you know that they are voiceless, they can be heard. Nobody will speak for them. Now, and you know our people in Nigeria, especially in National Assembly, they always love themselves. Anything that will favor the rich, that is what they normally do all the time. And this poor, I don't think that they have a representative there. So how do you think that this vulnerable will be supported by this policy?
Okay. Thank you so much for asking this question. You know, there's what you call power in number. Some of the countries that succeeded in holding the government accountable do not do it individually. They do it through a platform, through a coalition. So in the southern part of Nigeria, like Southwest, we have what we call the Dawn Commission, Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. And their work is to coordinate the works around what the governors are doing in the southwestern Nigeria. So what stops us from having a coalition of civil society or NGOs for the southwestern Nigeria? That their goal is to hold government accountable on the resources being allocated for SDG, so that at least it would help people. As we said, SDG is for the people. So as a human being, if you allow people without engaging them, without having questions, without control, people will do whatever they want to do. So, and the essence of NGOs and CBOs are to be the watchdog of how government are spending resources. So we need to do a lot of work. Those days, we have strong NGOs that are really advocating for reforms and result in Nigeria. But these days, it's like we don't have such NGOs. So if we want the politicians at National Assembly to allocate the resources and ensure that the resources reach the people. In fact, even we can make it compulsory that all senators and reps, their constituency project should be towards addressing SDG challenges. That should be one of the strong recommendations that we should put as part of the outcome of this conversation. Apart from the 50% of 400 billion should be allocated, then National Assembly members, senator and reps constituency project should be related to addressing SDG challenges, health, education, climate action, water and sanitation, and others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. So we will be going to Friday Aguga, and Abdul Basit, please get ready. You have just 30 seconds. Friday Aguga, please ask your question. You have just 30 seconds, please. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
Standing on existing protocols. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can. We can.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for the presentation. So coming in, I suppose this issue of SDG wouldn't be an issue if our government are up to date and they do what they ought to do. So I suppose, every government sitting up ordinarily should fix things for us in Nigeria and probably all over the world. Now, coming to my question, Doctor, is there a way we can localize every of these strategies? Because almost everything you're saying, to a reasonable extent, would need the government to be involved. Things like data collection, things like somebody mentioned, government standing in between the fund that is coming to fund projects like this. Is there a way we can localize things like this so that the advocacy teams that are probably championing some of these causes can probably take data, then at least to a reasonable extent measure what they have done, their successes from where they started from. That's one, a way we can probably localize these strategies. And on another ground, it's probably, just like you said, I don't know how much people are so much sensitized about the SDG program, but I just joined lately. I'm just probably a year in the advocacy program. So I suppose probably it's high time we started forming coalition so that we can be able to push in for people that are probably aware of these things that they are. So we can push for people like this into the government, because most of these people that are probably in power, it's either they don't know, so they have to wait for their advisors to come and tell them this is what people are saying. Then they have to take time to respond, and things are probably just accumulating. So they are just reactive. So you don't have people that are proactive, that are able to like, okay, this is what it is. And so they just leave those people like the advocacy teams to just react, because the most thing we are able to do is to react. We can't probably even formulate strategies that could probably stop some of these acts that pollute the environment, that put us at jeopardy. We can probably formulate strategies that could help us curtail some of those stuff even before they come to be. So we just wait for government to react. So probably when we probably come together and form a strong force, you can push people to the government house that can even move forward. Thank you.
I strongly agree with the last recommendation. You're pushing for a coalition. It will really work. And in fact, even UNDP and other donor partners might likely even support you. Yeah, so think around that. World Bank, there's a lot of donor. In fact, the post-SDG summit that are going to happen in New York in the next couple of weeks will lead to a lot of action. So form a strong coalition, have a massive social media presence, and have members across Nigeria doing short videos and short interview and photos and be sharing in social media. And politicians don't want a video or a picture that's kind of embarrassing to them. So imagine you going to Osun State and go to a hard-to-reach communities and do some short video and see how people are suffering, showing a kind of intergenerational chronic and acute poverty in those kind of communities. The government will act. So a strong coalition will help, and localizing the strategy, as you said, is what I said now. Localized strategy by identifying local problems, and local problems with the recommendation for local solutions. So if you're talking about SDG, somebody would think it's a big Oyibo grammar. But if you visit a community in Ibadan, where children are out of school, like in Shasha, part of Ibadan, Shaki West, Shaki East, and other part of Oyo State. Visit those local government, visit those border communities, do short video, interview local women, and write short story, and post it on social media. Government will act. So thank you for your input and thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. We have just about two. Abdul Basit Basia, you're up. You have just 30 seconds, please.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me?
Good evening. Hi.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. And Mr. Emmanuel.
Can't seem to hear you well.
It's like you are using two gadgets.
Yes.
Like you're using two gadgets. There's echo. You can off one, either your phone or your laptop or your tablet.
Just using my phone. I'm on my phone alone. Hello, okay.
Mr. Basit, you need to unmute yourself. Okay, probably while we wait for Mr. Basit, Lamidi Sahid Ademola, are you ready? Please ask your question if you are ready while we open. Mr. Good evening. Can you hear us? We can't hear you, Lamidi Sahid Ademola. We can't hear you. Maybe you can use the chat room to type your question and then I would read it out for you. I think that would be better.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay. Good evening. Yes, I'm. Hello.
We can hear you now.
Hello, I'm speaking. Okay, good evening. I appreciate the section by Doctor. Thank you very much. It was an inspiring section. Please, my question is around what a speaker just mentioned now about localization. I have a problem. I have a serious problem with the way we present SDG to our people. I've been following up with the MDG to the level of the SDG. I understand that what we have in Nigeria is our government push out projects to local communities with the title SDG projects, without the people understanding what the SDG is all about. Just like we are talking about health, healthy living, we are talking about education. So many of these people in the rural community are not aware of this. So I'm asking from the advocate, when are we going locals? When are we moving to the rural community to achieve this? Because, I'm organizing an event in the next 1 week, tag Ela, because I'm from Ela, tag Ela SDG Summit. There, I want people to understand what SDG is. I'm inviting schools, I'm inviting teachers, I'm inviting people through my NGO. I'm doing that because I understand a big gap in the awareness of SDG in rural communities. So when are we going rural? What are we doing about ensuring that rural people understand what SDG is? Recycling, upcycling is an effort towards achieving climate change. But how many people in the rural community understand? Am I audible?
Yes, very well. And you're making it.
So how many people in the rural community understand the fact that they can reuse their plastic bottles in order to ensure that we contribute to efforts towards climate action? Now, so I don't that it has been my own challenge that people in the rural community are not even aware. Teachers in secondary schools, teachers in primary school are not even aware of what SDG is, not to talk of the students. A student in a rural community that attend primary school and secondary school that is not aware of SDG, you want that student, that boy or girl, to go to the university and understand how to contribute to SDG. This is a gap, and it is contributing to the failure, or let me say, the reduction in how we are achieving these goals in Nigeria, because I'm in Nigeria. So thank you. I'm asking, when are we going rural? When are we localizing all these ideas?
Thank you so much.
When are we stopping?
Thank you so much. This is a very good question. And I think on the issue of communication and going local, in the lessons learned I share, there is one either from Kenya or Malawi, I cannot remember precisely, where they go local. So I think it's very important. And you know, one good thing is that if you are going local and you are documenting your work, you are showing results, you have short videos, big organization will come in to support you. The challenge you always mention is that we don't have money, lack of resources. If you have the idea, you have your smartphone, you have your 3,000 naira data, go to a village, gather women and young people, do video with them, snap photos, ask them questions, have a blog, have it on your social media or maybe a blog. By the time you keep sharing, before you know, you've gone global. There's a power of digital footprint. Because if somebody wants to work with you, just Google your name and what you are doing. And they will see evidence as a what we call digital footprint and evidence of what you are doing. So thank you so much for your question and your input.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. It has been a very inspiring conversation with you tonight, and we are sure going to bring you back one of these days to have another conversation with you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right, everyone. I think we can appreciate Dr. Mohammed in the chat room. I know everyone is doing that already, but here I am here giving you a virtual round of applause. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, we are going to be wrapping up this webinar soon. But before we do that, I'd like to have...
Sorry, before you wrap up, I think this is a very good one with over 52 participants.
Yeah.
It's a big one, it's a huge success. And I want you guys to continue to engage. And I want you guys to continue to see how you carry the message to the local community and be able to hold government accountable and also be able to have a strong advocacy platform and follow up recommendation. I will share the slides with Emmanuel. You can follow up with Emmanuel and get the slides. Thank you. Over and out.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. Thank you, sir. All right. So I think it's that time of the webinar where we ask for feedback on the Spotlight series. Now, this has been a 30-day journey and 31 by tomorrow. So I want about 2 people to just tell me, how has it been so far? If you have been following us on our social media platforms, you have been seeing, advocacy, you've been seeing us say, advocate, advance, accelerate. I want to just talk about it a little bit. So can I have at least one person? Thank you so much, Rashida Dafolabi. I want just one person to tell me, okay, so I see Kenya, Suzanne, Kester. Okay, so 2 people. I have 2 people, and that's good for tonight. Okay, so you're up, Kenya. Can you tell me how has it been so far, being a part of this SDG Spotlight series? So you can unmute yourself and over to you. You're up, Kenya. You can unmute yourself. If you are not ready, then I'm going to move ahead.
Good evening.
Okay. Hi, good evening. Okay, I think she just dropped off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to Scholastica. You can tell us how it has been so far, being a part of the SDG Spotlight series. So you can unmute yourself, Scholastica, and tell us how it has been. Please unmute yourself. Can you hear us? Scholastica, can you hear us? If you can, please unmute yourself and tell us how it has been so far in the SDG Spotlight series. If Scholastica is not, okay, she's ready. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. So tell us, how has it been?
Okay, it's actually been an amazing journey. Before now, the knowledge of SDG was not that clear to me. But to be honest, starting this journey with you till this moment, I must say that I have learned a lot. And I know for sure that it is not something that is peculiar to me. So many people have been enlightened, they've been exposed to the knowledge of SDGs. And another important thing it has done to me is that I've been able to choose a particular SDG, and I've actually been trying my best to fight its cause, and that's the 13th SDG that talks about climate action. So it has been a very fruitful journey, each day with its new experience, and myself trying to reach out to people. In fact, the most amazing thing about it is bringing out a day and having a particular SDG to focus on, to explain it, to deliberate on it. It was really a nice thing. It's a very great one. I benefited, and I know that I'm not the only one benefiting. And also my social media handles, I've been able to spread the news. In my online class, I did for students. I also taught them today about SDGs. It has been a very nice journey, I must say. And you are doing well. Thanks for organizing this.
Thank you so much, Scholastica. We appreciate you. All right, Chuang Comfort, you are up. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing that the right way. You are up. Please tell us how it has been so far, being a part of the SDG Spotlight series. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, you got the pronunciation correct.
Awesome.
Yes. It has been okay. This SDG when I was serving, and I was like, I didn't get. Hello.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. When I first heard about SDG, that's when I was serving. I didn't even know anything about it. It was just like stories. And today I've got to know so many things about that. And I want to appreciate you guys. The journey has really been nice. And keep it up.
Thank you for being a part of this. I can only take one more person, and that would be Rukaya Habibu Mahuta. Rukaya Habibu Mahuta. Because of our time, you're up, please. So you can unmute yourself and speak. For others, please make use of the chat room. I would read that out as much as I can. So Rukaya, you're up. Thank you.
Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for organizing this SDG Spotlight program. I really appreciate, and I have learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rukaya. For others, please.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Rukaya. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
I just want to greet you. That's all.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. For others, please make use of the chat room. And of course, watch out for a feedback form that we placed on the community where you can also tell us more about how this journey has been for you. I remain your moderator, Opeyemi Odunola. You can use that same name to connect with me on LinkedIn. And so I would be handing over to the development catalyst. He has been here on this virtual stage today already, and he's going to give us, some information and of course, round up this webinar. So help me make welcome Mr. Emmanuel Ola-Olowoyo. Over to you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Opeyemi, for this wonderful moderation and the session you've been leading with us this evening. And I would like to start with an appreciation to Dr. Muritala for the engaging and thought-provoking session which he led. Each and every point is an action to carry across all boards, civil society and private organization, government, and everyone without leaving anyone behind. And it's very important for us to move beyond words and get into action. Yes, everything you said, I was so happy when Scholastica said she was able to integrate the SDGs into her teachings. And these are things which we are looking forward to across each and every education sector. We can't wait to that moment whereby we also have these SDGs into the curriculum of both the primary and secondary, and also the tertiary educations, whereby we can have disciplines that are focusing on sustainable development. I believe this is what we are going to be achieving in due time. And I will quickly say that the Spotlight series has not ended, it's forever. We keep having it over. Already I've also plan my schedule out for September. I'm using those contents again, over and over again to sensitize, to advocate them more. And I'm so happy when someone mentioned about the rural communities. It's high time. Please feel free to reach out anytime we get to support you and see how we can also collaborate. Yeah, partnership for the goals. No matter how the vision is clear to you, it's not meant to be achieved alone. So we are open to partnership. We are open to supporting and helping you to develop your strategic plan in line to your projects. And just like the moderator mentioned, we are going to be sharing a feedback form which you can either share your video feedback, or you can, of us down in the community. And definitely there are some of us that have not been part of the SDG Spotlight series. We are going to ensure that we create another platform whereby you can also have another learning series, intensive and transformative learning, and we can assure you that it's something that is going to be so impactful. And once again, we sincerely say thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's I know for some country it's like 11:18 p.m. It's 9:18 p.m. here in Nigeria. We have some people joining us from Kenya and some other countries that their time zone is quite different from us. And to our amazing speaker, guest speaker for tonight, to say a big thank you, sir. Thank you. We look forward to further engagement and partnership with you and the great work you do in FCT. And definitely, I know your visit to the United Nations General Assembly is going to be an impactful one, and also to the benefit of the entire nation. And each and every one of us, please, let's keep connecting. I can see the LinkedIn profile being dropped across board, and you can also get to connect with each other. Thank you so much. We wish you a wonderful and restful night. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Bye. Thank you.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
To end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined.
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals
A 15-year plan
for everyone, everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
Is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
Everyone
goes to school.
And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
For a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities to thrive
and be powerful
and safe.
we cannot succeed if half the world is held back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
And proper toilets at home,
at school,
and at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper. And new wealth.
Lead to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
Best innovations
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated.
inside our countries,
and between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back
What we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas. Where we restore and protect
life on land,
The forests.
Animals,
the earth itself.
with peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
work together
in partnerships of all kinds
to make these goals a reality
for everyone, everywhere.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work. Let's make it